It could be at the state level, it could be at the university level, it could be at the teaching level, but that's something which will have to be kind of put together. And I know a lot of probably more private sector universities are looking at that, how to do it. In fact, one of the recommendations we did make was that even the professors and the lecturers of the universities must spend time in the industry to get trained before they actually begin to teach. Because if these guys are actually trained over during the 70s course and they're actually going to impart the same knowledge, the output what you're going to get is exactly what you will get. So there has to be this kind of rotation that will need to happen. We need to make those changes pretty rapidly, I think. Yeah.
Actually, we are quite comfortable with this time-based education system which we have. For the last 6 years, what's happening is this idea of competency-based education training is coming in. I think this is what you meant about disruptive. If you look around, competency-based systems are all about mastery and modularization. And when you say modularization, that's when technology comes in. When you can break the learning into packets and you can deliver it either in a physical mode or in a technology mode or in a blended format, that's when we really talk of technology being used, and that's when skills get embedded in education. So when we look at probably the Australian qualification framework or many other systems, skills is well embedded in the education system. It's not something like where we have outside the system. That's probably where we should be looking at, and that's where the future is.
So,
yeah.
I have a question.
Where are you?
Here.
Where?
In the second last row.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Pragati. I wanted to ask, while we are discussing skill training, vocational education and all these things, how prepared is the industry or the industry leaders really are to really employ these skilled, trained people? So if for example, if I go to an Uber tomorrow and I tell them that I'm not an MBA, but I have this certificate of a particular skill, will they really be ready to take me in their organization?
Yeah. So Amit, will you respond to that?
Yes,
I'll tell you about the Indian industry, that it's very unprepared. That I can tell you. Skilled people, they are just not employing. A lot of skilling has taken place, but the Indian industry is very, very irresponsible. I can go on record to say that.
How do we
But let's hear Amit on that.
Yeah.
I think so. Mr. Paya touched upon it this morning as well. I think it's got to be a partnership where if there's skilling happening, there is some commitment and some partnership from private, which says there'll be employment. Like what happens today? Right? If there's skilling, then the cost of employment for the skilled labor is potentially higher, right? And if you just look at it in isolation, you'll say, if the skilling is not valuable to me, you'll hire somebody that is not at higher cost. So there's got to be that partnership, there's got to be a long-term working together, because it cannot work in isolation. It cannot work with just skilling happening and without the private partnership. Private companies, Uber or anybody else, kind of have to work together and take a longer-term view, which is how do private companies benefit society? So what is the element of benefit of society, and not taking a short-term view on a very small delta versus you taking a long-term view of how you're skilling society. So it's got to be a combination of both and a partnership. And as Mr. Khan said, I don't think we're there as yet today.
Nowhere in the world has, it's ever happened that you've had skilling and job creation without the private sector. Nowhere in the world. Wherever skilling and job creation has succeeded, it's happened because the private sector has played a critical role, where it's developed the curriculum, it's actually skilled people and absorbed them in their jobs and given them higher salaries. It's only, that's the reason why in Germany, a German, you went through a industrial training institute, and Chancellor Schroeder went on to become the chancellor after he had won there, because people started recognizing these institutes, because industry gave a lot of brand value to that. It's only in India that the industry does not absorb skilled people and does not pay higher wages for skilled people. And I truly blame the Indian industry for that. That if I provide you an unskilled worker and if I provide you a highly skilled worker, the Indian industry wants to pay the same wages to both of them. It is not willing to pay a premium for a skilled wage. It's extremely irresponsible of the Indian industry. Let me say this in FICCI. So one question. And please do clap me for this. So one question. And that's one of the prime reasons why skilled workers are not getting adequate number of jobs.
So one question I have. So my question to you is
I think.
May I ask? Then how we plan to
Is there
answer?
a lady who wants to ask a question? Yeah, please.
May I ask?
Thank you, sir, for giving me an opportunity. I think in India, when we go to students to recruit or we want a student to take up a vocational education, they do not like it. The reason is if you call it, rebrand it as a technical career education, they would accept it versus vocational education. America has already done something like that. And this kind of a small initiative from you would go a long way.
May I make a point, sir?
May I ask?
Can I make a point, sir? Here, sir.
Yeah. My question is to Mr. Kant. When the Indian industry is not to the requirement, so how we can move forward? That is number one. Second question is, if I take the views of Mr. Sharad Sharma and the way the things are moving, do we need to do the re-engineering of our Skill India initiative and the 100 smart cities? Because we are not doing the mapping of skill requirement on state level and the district level. Because the job creation has to be done in these smart cities. And we have to match up the skill drive to that.
Respond to this,
Please.
Yeah, sure. We have a special love for Russians.
Okay,
So you're most welcome.
I'm the first time in India and I already have special love for it. So thank you for your invitation. And my question is that we are constantly speaking about rapidly changing environment, disruptive technologies and all that stuff, so we need to think about the future. But at the same time, reading the report, I see that the training ecosystem is limited with the university level and then the big employment. So what about the retraining of existing millions of people who are not prepared because they were trained old style? So is there any systemic programs or it is only our on-job training? Thank you.
Yeah, Dilip, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
Thank you. I think just to answer the question about skill gap studies at district level has been done. Right? The second thing about industry is as we get more competitive and as the ease of business and all the initiatives that Mr. Kant initiated earlier and competition comes in, you will see industry requiring people. I mean, that's what's actually driven Uber to, let's say, tie up with what appeared in Maruti. Very interesting. One page you have your tie up with Maruti and X 100,000 drivers in 3 years. In the other one, you're driving the assisted car in the US. So that's the balance that they'll have to make. So that, and to your question, I think what we need to do is that there are 3 types of people. When you talk of skills, we don't make this distinction. There are people in schools and colleges, so we have to actually embed skills in the education system. There are people out of school and college, the dropouts, where we need a totally different system. And the third is those people who are at work and who's, with 3D printers replace sewing machines, what will happen to the entire textile industry in India, or will they, or the leather industry in India? So that's 3 distinct constituencies for skill development, and all 3 have different agendas. You can't club them under one.
Yeah, one last comment.
So one last question.
No more questions, no more comments.
I just want to leave a very quick thought with you. The largest seller of hotel rooms in the world is a company called Airbnb today. And Airbnb today does not use anybody from the hotel management industry. They actually disdain, because they say there's so much of unlearning required. It is much easier for us to take a regular person and our software lets them get trained. And those of you who have used Ola and Uber, you will end up meeting a driver who's on day 1, day 2. But if you run into him on day 10, he's trained himself because their systems are designed to allow that training to happen all the time. So I think, you know, this whole thing about skills registry and, you know, all this is so old fashioned. I don't know it's going to be relevant at all as we go forward. So I think in this new world, we got to think afresh. This is a new world. We must build for the new world.
Quickly sum it up in few words. My view is that we must embrace technology. If India doesn't embrace technology, it will be a sad day. In fact, we should speed ahead at a much faster rate. Whether we like it or not, smart manufacturing, intelligent manufacturing, manufacturing 4.0, or whatever you want to say it as, is inevitable. It is going to happen. And India is actually got an advantageous position because we are digitally strong. We make some of the best programmers in the world. We have a culture of manufacturing, and when you integrate and converge digitization with manufacturing, you know, it's not going to be the old days of very dark, dirty, dangerous manufacturing anymore. Manufacturing will become very, very fashionable. It will become very, very sexy. You go to Tesla factory, Elon Musk sits in the floor shop place, which is like better than the Emporium Mall of Delhi. Let me tell you, I've been to that factory, I've seen it. It's better than the Emporium Mall of Delhi. That's how manufacturing is. Very, very fashionable. So that's what digitization will do to manufacturing. It'll make it, you know, the consumer, the retailer, the manufacturer, the floor shop will all get converged together. What the consumer will decide at one point will pass on immediately to the floor shop, and based on his consumer preference, it'll be decided here on the floor shop. So this is inevitable, and India must embrace that very rapidly, very quickly. But having said that, let me tell you that India is a very large country of Europe, a very large country. It's bigger than 24 countries of Europe. So Mr. Sharad Sharma is thinking that we are like Germany. We are not like Germany, and it's a very large country. Portions of India, Gujarat, Maharashtra, probably parts of Andhra Pradesh will get into smart manufacturing, but every state of India must realize what its core competency is and excel in that core competency. Don't try and make Kerala another smart manufacturing destination. Imagine if there were cement factories on the backwaters of Kerala, we will destroy it. So every state, it's a great tourism destination. Every state must excel in what it is good at. And therefore, I believe that every state, some states will be very good at textiles, some will be very to create jobs, and that's the third point I want to make is that actually, if you look at it, needs to, you know, factor market reform, drive job creation in India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.